David, I've known you for a long time. How long have I known you?
Gosh, probably 16, 17 years.
Yeah, long time.
Mm.
And when I first met you, your language was nowhere like it is now. And I think it's really worth your talking about your journey. And I think that's really a good thing for people with aphasia to understand, that you didn't start mild and get all this much better. So do you mind talking a little bit about it?
Sure. I first had my stroke. It was a massive stroke when I was about 10 years old. So that was 19 years ago. I was globally aphasic, so I couldn't understand what people were saying to me, nor I couldn't talk at all in the beginning. When people asked me, like, where's my nose, I would point to my ear or some other body part. So it took me many, many trials and errors to be able to speak like I am today. I had over 3,000 hours of clinical speech therapy over the last 16 years. And in the beginning, the first year or two, I only could say one or two words in a sentence, like many of you on ARC. But through a lot of therapy and through motivation and keeping the will to fight for your recovery and keeping up the journey to continue on the fight. So I think many people who listen to this, I really hope that you can still continue the fight for your recovery and strive for what you think is the best. So,
A couple of questions. I think some people would say that the reason you got better was because you were so young when you had your stroke. Do you have an answer for that?
I think regardless of people's age, you can still try to do what's best for your recovery. And so many times people have doubts about how do you get better, but you just have to look on the bright side and just focus on your abilities and try to do what's best for you. So
Yeah, I think the fact that you were young had something to do with the elegance of your recovery. But I don't think it's the whole story. Now let me tell you a story. I was working on a aphasia recovery project in the Children's and the University Hospital and Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh. And I got a call from one of my friend neurologists in the pediatric hospital. And he said, I would like you to come and see this child. And I think she was 10. And so I went over to see her. And she was mute. She had no speech. And as far as I could see, I wasn't sure she was understanding either. So I went home that night and I prepared all of this stuff, the pictures with words written under them, and I made a communication book for her. And I was up, decently late that night making this communication book. So the next day I went into the hospital and I said, do you see I'm making this up, what it was, I can't remember. Do you see the picture of the dog? And she said, well, that should have been a clue. I mean, she was making sounds. She wasn't doing that the day before. And she pointed, and I said, can you point to the dog and the cat? Finally, I said, can you find the picture of something else? She did it. And I said, can you name any of these things? And she said, sure. And we went through all this excruciating stuff before it dawned on me that her recovery was incredibly rapid. And that is a not uncommon pattern for people who just have talking problems who are little kids when they have strokes. You didn't have that. You had a comprehension problem. You had global aphasia, as you just said. So I don't think you were a typical young person with aphasia. I think you had a more severe aphasia than than that would have suggested. So don't, don't let people get away with saying, oh, it's because he's young. Yeah, that helped, but it's not the answer.